Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm filming with the newest collection from Natasha Denona. It just arrived at my house and I had to run down here and film this video because I'm so excited about this midi palette. So if you guys want to see some swatches, see two different eye looks, then just keep watching. If you guys are new to my channel, welcome. My name is KARENHARRIS. I like to film tan girl-friendly makeup videos here on YouTube. So if you like to see new makeup, especially eyeshadow palettes and blush, then this is the place for you. Highly recommend subscribing, turning on that bell so you're notified every time I post. And without further blabbering, let's get into it. Okay, you guys, so I spent $141 on this Natasha Denona order, which sounds a little wild when you say it out loud, but this was the first midi palette in a hot second that actually called to me color story wise and packaging. The eyeliners looked amazing. I couldn't pick one, so I bought all three. So I spent a lot of money on this collection and I'm so excited to be playing with it for you guys and for myself, of course. I'm also gonna have a ton of comparisons at the end of this video, so stay until the end. You guys know how much I love greens and grungy tones, so I feel like I could have pulled like 20, 30, 40 palettes to compare the Yucca palette to, but I did grab a few. Some of you had mentioned these in the comment section on my community tab when we had started talking about the Yucca palette. So let me go ahead and show you guys some close-ups that I got of the palette as well as the swatches. And yeah, let's go ahead and talk about this particular palette because it is absolutely stunning and I'm just so excited by this color story, like I've said 100 times already. So this palette consists of 15 new fiery shades in an exquisite palette that synergistically merges Natasha's three daring formulas of sparkling, foiled, matte, and metallic. This is free of mineral oil and it is also cruelty-free. Becoming immersed in the tropical paradise surrounding her, Natasha has created a new trend of eyeshadow with statement-making, hand-designed original shades and formulas, from the revolutionary sparkling foiled first introduced in the Love Face palette to the creamy textured mattes and the ultra-shiny metallics. These buttery smooth shades provide maximum color payoff, blending seamlessly to produce vibrant, ultra-pigmented, long-lasting looks. The rich pressed shade shadows leave the skin with an optimum texture and comfortable all-day wear for all skin types and tones. So the palette is now available on the Natasha Denona website. I also saw it on Sephora for Rouge, and it'll be available for everyone tomorrow on Sephora. I'm guessing it's going to come to Ulta and Beautilish as well. I don't have any dates on any of that, and the palette is $69. I was like, Natasha, take my money. Okay, so now that you've seen the swatches and the close-ups, let's go ahead and get into two eye looks with this palette. Okay, y'all, so this palette has some beautiful cream to powder formulas as well as some delicious sparkles. But when I swatched this shade Willow, I was like, listen, that needs to be on my crease stat. So I'm going to do a green eye look first because I'm a sucker. And I'm taking an E24 from Sigma and we're just going to pack it on right here. I'm kind of keeping that on the outer corner because I want to use the shade Camu Camu on the inner part of this look, which usually I start with the lighter shade, but I like to switch it up every once in a while. So I'm going to grab a smaller blending brush and I'm going to go into Camu Camu. I always struggle with shades like this because they don't typically show up on my skin tone, but that one actually shockingly did. I don't even think it looked that pigmented when I swatched it, but maybe the combination of my Sigma eyeshadow primer is holding strong there, but that actually blended pretty nice. I'm low-key impressed. There is a bit of a line showing there, so we're gonna need to do some work with blending those shades together, but I am pretty surprised. Wow, I feel like I've just been waiting for so long for Natasha to do a color story that I've wanted. Like the retro glam palette was so bad. That color story was not for me, and now I keep reading comments online from people saying like they don't like this palette, and I'm like, you know what, that's fine. I'm sorry you don't like it, but for me this palette is beautiful, so I'm gonna enjoy it. Okay, so I'm torn between the shade Komorebi and Plantasia. They're two beautiful duochromes. Plantasia kind of reminds me of a shade in the Gold palette. I'm gonna be bold and daring and try this shade. Oh my gosh, it is very soft. I just kind of picked up way too much on the Sigma brush. Give it a nice spray. And yeah, that is just as beautiful as I thought it was gonna be. Holy sparkles. And we're just gonna put that on the lid. I feel like I should use my finger. Oh yeah. There we go. It's like a beautiful bronzy green luminous shade. Ah, so pretty. There is a little bit of fallout from the shade Camu Camu, but I will clean that up in a second. And then I'm gonna do this eye, and then we're gonna do the lower lash lines together. But that's pretty much the first look, just kind of simple and easy green eye look. On this side, I have to play with the neutrals because this is definitely more of a neutral palette with some mustards and some oranges and really just a very few pops of green. So if you were like thinking this one's gonna be very green heavy, I don't think you need to worry about that. So we do have this shade called Fushi. It's a cream to powder. So I'm going to pick that up on a Kaleidos brush. I find that these shadows work well with natural and synthetic, so I'm just using the synthetic brush, and I'm just kind of going to be messily applying this all over. Oh, that's such a pretty color. It's actually a pretty good mustard, but it's definitely like a very earthy orange. And I just love these cream to powder shadows because I feel like you can really like pack them on and build them up, and they just smoothen out so nicely. So I'm just like very messily applying that. So that's how it looks. And then I'm going to go into this shade called Lexia. Listen, you guys are not following me to learn how to pronounce things, okay? You're following me because you love crazy, colorful, fun makeup, sometimes neutral makeup, but just for fun, just because you want to know if you should spend your money on something or if you should pass. I feel like, in all honesty, we're gonna look at my collection, and I probably have this palette duped 100 times in my collection. But it's Natasha, girl, with Natasha and Pat McGrath, Oden's Eye, Adept, Kaleidos, so many brands. It doesn't matter what they launch, I'm probably gonna get it. Okay, I'm gonna go into the shade Flax. I've just been using the same brush, and we're just gonna put that on the outer corner. It's like a pretty dark brown shade. This is a cool tone brown. I don't think this palette is that warm tone. I mean, it's definitely not just like a cool tone neutral palette, but it definitely has like a good balance. And I think you could do some really pretty neutral looks with it if that's what you want. Like if you're like, oh, this is too green, it's really not that green. I mean, I'm a green lover, so, you know, I live and breathe and sneeze for greens, but I don't think it's that green. Okay, I'm gonna use the shade Elysian. It's definitely different for me. It's more of like a smoky, cool toned brown, but I'm kind of here for it. I want to do something different because I feel like the typical look I would have done is to reach for the lighter browns, but I want to try this. It's a little different for me, so I'm gonna do it. I feel like these shimmers just look so much better when you pick it up with your finger. This is like a really pretty gunmetal brown shade. I think that shade I use in my crease is almost like a little too warm for this. I should have probably used something a little bit more cool tone, but holy Santa Claus, that is a really pretty glam looking eye in my humble opinion. Okay, so I did get the 3 liners because I could not. And so the box packaging is so cute. I mean, how could I decide between these shades? They're like all very me. And I've never tried her liners. So these are her Macro Tech eye crayons. And this shade is called Willow, which is a shade in the palette. Camu is a shade in the palette. And Fushi is also a shade in the palette. So that is really cool. There's matching liners to shades in the palette. Okay, I'm excited to swatch these because I haven't swatched them yet. So let's see how creamy they are. Oh, that is so pretty and creamy. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited. I'm so excited for this Camo shade because I bought a shade like this from Sephora and it hardly shows up on me in the waterline. So I'm very curious. Here's a close-up of the 3 eyeliners. And I want to go ahead and put these on my waterline today. So let's start off with Camo. I'm going to put that on the inner corner of the green look. Oh, that's pretty. And then I'm going to put the shade Willow on the outer corner. Those 2 colors are so pretty. And then I'm going to use the shade Fushi on this eye look. Wow. These are like really quite vibrant in the waterline. So I'm very curious to know if the other shades she has, I think she has like a black and stuff, if they look as opaque, because I could see myself picking up more of those shades. Okay, let's go ahead and finish up this under eye real quick. Okay, so I'm going to grab this little pencil brush from Unearthly, and I'm going to start off with the shade Willow, and I'm just going to follow along the waterline and where I put the eyeliner, and I'm just going to blend the top and the bottom just so there is some continuity there. And then I'm going to take the shade Camo, the powder eyeshadow, and just kind of blend. The eyeliner is really what's giving it that bright pop, so I'm happy that I have that. And then on this side, I'm going to take the shade Lixia or whatever, and I'm just going to run it on the lower lash line. I feel like the cream to powder shade is a little too close to my skin tone, so I don't think it's going to show. And then I'm going to take Flax, which is the dark brown that I used on the outer corner. And again, I just like to blend from out here to down into the waterline just so it gets a nice blend and there's no like harshness created, so there's like a nice continuation with the eye look. That's just kind of how I like to do my makeup. So the 2 looks are done. I do have like blush, bronzer, and everything on already. I will link everything else on my face in the description box. I'm gonna go ahead, spray my face, do something with this hair, put on some earrings and a lipstick, and I'll be right back to give you guys my first impression thoughts on the new Natasha Denona Yucca palette and collection. Okay friends, so here is the finished look. What do you guys think? If you're wondering about these earrings, they're from one of my favorite places to buy earrings. They're from Zara. And yeah, they're kind of over the top, like little sunflower looking things, but I kind of thought that since we were going for an earthy vibe, these would look really cool, and I haven't worn them on camera yet. So let me know what you think. Give the earrings a rating from 1 to 10 or whatever you guys want to do. Let me know your thoughts. Are they too much or are they just right? Okay, anyway, the looks are done. I just had such a fun time playing with this palette. I told you guys I wasn't going to tell you what was on my face today just to kind of save some time, but I do have to give my friend Heather a shout out for this Oden gloss. I'm not even a gloss gal, but I paired, this is my lip combo, the shade Maple Matte from House Labs with the Heather Austin and Unearthly Oden lip gloss. So delicious. I want to know from you guys, have you picked up this collection? I need to see it. I need to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments. Okay, we're trailing. Let's get back to the Natasha Denona stuff. So I'm excited. Like I said, when I started showing this palette, I am so here for this color story. I know a lot of people have different thoughts on this and that it's probably something we already have in our collections, but I feel like this is definitely satisfying a craving I had for something that's more up my alley from Natasha Denona. I feel like in the midi price point, she's kind of been playing it very safe. It's been very neutral shadows. She did like the bronze palette and the glam palette, and everybody's loving all of those. The retro palette, very like everyday color stories. I feel like the Love and the Sunset palette, kind of where she started off, those were a little bit more wild, I would say. But as far as kind of like a kooky color story in the $65 price point or the $69 price point, I would say this is probably the most out there one. I guess we also have the pastel palette, but honestly, I don't love pastels on me, so that one I don't even really think about too much, but I'm really pumped about this. I can't wait to play with it. Like I said, there's really not that many green shades. As far as the mattes go, there's this one, and then this cream to powder shade is like a grungy green, and then this metallic looks very green. There are some duochromes that kind of lean green, but I think this is a palette that even if you only like neutrals, I feel like you can get good use out of this. I mean, listen, I don't have to twist anyone's arm. If you want to buy it, buy it. I think it's gorgeous. I think the eyeshadows perform really well. I'm very, very happy with it. And honestly, you guys know I don't like to spend a lot of money on eyeliners. I like to buy the ColourPop ones because they're so affordable. But these shades just like call to me. And I'm so happy I got these because you guys know I love green. So I could definitely get a ton of use out of the green liners. The neutrally shade, the mustardy shade is super beautiful. I had been eyeing a shade like this from Glossier. I know my friend Angie had recommended that one, so I was thinking about it. But now that I have these three from Natasha, I think I'm covered and I think the quality feels really nice. It's hanging on in my waterline so far, so I will keep you guys posted. Super, super pretty, super happy with everything I bought as far as this collection goes. Now let's go ahead and get into some comparisons and then we can finish this video off. Okay, so like I mentioned at the start of the video, a lot of these comparisons were ones you guys had also mentioned, and then I also tried to grab ones that I thought of when I saw the palette. But I wanted to show you guys just from my Natasha collection a few comparisons. So of course I had to grab the green brown palette. This is like the first palettes that Natasha Denona launched, and they're very, very expensive. As you can see, mine is in pristine condition because I've never used mine and I've had it for multiple years, and I know a lot of people are trying to curb their makeup spending, so I wanted to compare it to that one in case you guys had that one. And then one of you had mentioned the Triochrome palette in my community tab post, so I just wanted to show you guys side by side. Of course, there's a row of like grungy shades in this Triochrome palette, but I don't think it's gonna have those like neutrally shades. But also, I mean, I can see that like orangey mustardy shade that I used in my crease on the neutral look. So I think that if you're really trying to not buy the Yucca palette, you could probably make something work with that. And then I had to pull out my beloved Metropolis palette. I was literally thinking about this palette the other day. Well, last night I think I was in bed and I was like, God, I really need to pull the Metropolis palette and just play with it, because I was honestly getting jealous thinking of the people that hit pan on this palette, because the formulas are just that good. Okay, now we're gonna go rapid fire through some of the green grungy palettes in my collection. I pulled this Beauty Bay Earthy palette because, I mean, look at the size of this palette. It's 42 colors. You're bound to be able to do most of these shades with the Earthy palette from Beauty Bay, and if you're balling on a budget and you like greens, this might be one to look at. Okay, this palette I got recently because you guys know I have a small collection of the Martine Cosmetics palettes, but her Mula palette next to the Yucca palette I thought were pretty close. I feel like I like how much brighter the greens in the Mula palette are, but I haven't actually used this one yet, so I don't have any thoughts on the formula. This one of you had mentioned in my comment section, and I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't even think of that. It is the Ace Beaute Tropical Vibes palette. I think it's fun to compare the Yucca to the Tropical Vibes, because when you hold it up next to these very vibrant shadows, it really doesn't look as scary, I feel like, you know, or as intimidating, I should say. So there's those two next to each other. And this is one I thought of right as I got the palette and opened it up. Did any of you think of the Menagerie Cosmetics Killer Purr? I feel like these two are definitely giving me the vibes. Of course, the Killer Purr doesn't have the shimmer formula that Natasha does, or the cream to powder. And I do think this is the old version of the Killer Purr, because, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they redid that with different shades. And then a oldie but a goodie. This is like one of the first grungy indie palettes we saw. It's the Juicy Olive palette from Give Me Glow. Obviously, this is very grungy and it doesn't have any of those neutral shades, but I thought it would be fun to show you guys a side by side. Oh, I have more. Did you think I was done? This was a subscriber suggestion as well, and I was like, oh yeah, I'd be happy to compare those two. So this is the Juvia's Place Tribe palette, which they don't make any longer, but a lot of you guys probably already own it because a lot of us love Juvia's Place. And then another comparison I got from Juvia's Place is to their Nomad palette. So I think if you have the Nomad and the Tribe, you could probably make something work with this color combo. But how fun is that? And here's one I thought of right away when I saw this color story. It's the Melt 420 palette from back in the day. But I will say I don't think that light green shade that I used in my inner corner is as vibrant looking in the pan as the lighter shades in this 420 palette, but honestly it packs a punch. I was genuinely surprised with how pigmented that was in the inner corner. I think I mentioned that this palette definitely gave me Melt Gemini vibes in my new makeup releases video where we talked about this potential color story. So there's those two next to each other. And then I don't really know why I grabbed this, but I did grab the Dirty Martini palette from Glamlite. Pretty different. And then the last two are recent palettes that I think a lot of you are just curious to see if they are similar or not. So I have the Oden's Eye. This is the Stone and a Rock palette. I feel like the Yucca palette is definitely more neutral leaning. The Stone and Rock is definitely more of a grungy green palette. And last but certainly not least, this palette launched on Tuesday. This is the Nomad Botswana palette next to the Yucca palette or the Okavango Safari palette. So here these are side by side. These ones definitely look a little bit similar. I know that if you're balling on a budget and you want to kind of support a good cause, maybe you want to check out the Nomad palette. I also love like the packaging of the Nomad palette. But I think these are different enough where you could definitely easily own both of these. Okay, you guys, so I feel like I did a ton of comparisons. Let me know what other palettes you were kind of comparing the Natasha Denona Yucca palette in your mind to, because I'm so curious. Overall, first impressions, I had a lot of fun with this palette. I'm so glad I bought this. I'm so glad I bought the eyeliners too, because I definitely don't like have a ton of money to spend on makeup. And I kept going back and forth in my mind. I'm like, do you really need those eyeliners? Can you just get one, like just to try out the formula? Do you really need all three? And then I just like made an impulsive decision to spend $141. And so far I don't regret it. So I'm definitely going to keep playing with this palette behind the scenes. But overall, I'm not mad that I bought this collection. Let me know if you guys picked this up, if you're planning on picking this up. I love chatting to you guys in my comment section. So let me know all your thoughts. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, because it makes it look good in the YouTube algorithm, which totally is helping me out. It's a free way to support the channel. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in another video very soon. Bye, guys!